Alrighty, 2015 Dodge Grand Caravan 3.6 V6 VVT variable valve timing. Issue is this vehicle, when you're driving on the highway, say for at least 5 minutes at a steady state speed, for at least 5 minutes, torque converter clutch is locked up, you're in 6th gear, you slow down to, I don't know, make a turn, stop, hit a stoplight or stop at a stoplight, the vehicle will lunge, shake a little bit, and it'll eventually die. Not always, but most of the time it'll die. I believe there's something going on with the transmission. Maybe the torque converter clutch is not unlocking all the way. It's duty cycle controlled. So that's what needs to be addressed. But before we get into actually troubleshooting it, he took it to a couple of local dealers in Mountain Home, Idaho, which I always talk about. And they, this one right here, that looks like they did some other maintenance to it, but they wrote driving high speed to slow speed, bad vibration, and die off coming to a stop. Not all the time. No check engine light is on, which there is no check engine light. I checked that. Charged them like $160. So what did they recommend? I'll show you. They recommended a new transmission, which is $32.38, shop supplies $28, some labor $810, program the TCM PCM, which I know you'd want to reprogram it because you're not changing the TCM PCM. It's part of it. It's just two separate computers within the PCM that are partitioned. Anyways, then there has this materials, and they're talking a total of $44.25, almost $4,500 to replace this. Well, the whole transmission's not bad. I don't believe. We'll troubleshoot that to see. So then he took it to another dealer I always talk about. Took it to this dealer here. They charged him $120 for diagnostic fee. It says a vehicle stalled out while shaking, then stopped. Customer pay shop supplies and environmental waste disposal for repair. Supposedly they took some extra transmission fluid out on this vehicle. Not sure if that's true or not. I don't know how they would have been over serviced because nothing's ever been done with this transmission as far as I know. And it doesn't actually have a dipstick on these transmissions. Just a cap, and you're supposed to buy a special dipstick to actually check it. So who knows what these guys did too, but they're saying that as well, as far as I can tell, that it needs a new transmission as well. But I believe it doesn't. We're going to do some drivability tests, get some data, compare data, and see what's going on. I think it's something with the torque converter clutch solenoid or whatever a Chrysler Dodge calls it on this one. But yet again, a couple of local dealers in Mountain Home, Idaho are throwing parts at the problem, replacing old transmission when it probably doesn't need it. We'll prove that through this video, and then go from there. All right, we're going to take it for a test drive now. I got the vehicle up to operating temp. We're idling here. So for the PIDs, parameter IDs I got pulled up. Sorry about the glare, but I got engine speed, target idle speed. So 1648, and it's idling around there. Torque converter slip and RPMs. Overdrive pressure switch is open. Overdrive clutch field volume index. Present gear, target gear. So if I move that through the gears, I'm in drive, so one's first. Here's the neutral, I want the reverse. So it's all good there. Park neutral switch, so when it's in park it shows neutral because it's park neutral. Switch, overdrive clutch status, or overdrive clutch state is not applied. So what I think's going on here, I think why it's surging in the, when you're coming off the highway because the torque converter clutch is locked up. I think it's not releasing due to a mechanical fault in the solenoid. I think there's an issue with that. It doesn't need an entire transmission, it just needs a new solenoid replaced. So here's the valve body, which is on the side of the transmission. There's two plates, the bottom pan on the transmission, which is where you drain your fluid and get the filter, but then the side plate is where the connector goes in your valve body. Well, I don't care about any of these solenoids right now. What I care about is this one right here, the TCC variable force solenoid. Right? That's the one I think is having the issue. Well, if you look at pin 3, TCC VFS control, so glared here. That's the connector going into it. So pin 3 down there, you can see it. That is this solenoid right there. So then, look at this wiring diagram. It's kind of hard to see because it's so small. It's EMCC. That's the same. That's the TCC solenoid, which is pin 3 there on the transmission solenoid pressure switch. So that transmission pressure switch assembly is this whole thing here. Well, that is pin 3, which is there for connector pin out. And then this is your TCM, which is your TCM all-in-one. It's partitioned inside there. And you go over here, it's your assembly transmission solenoid pressure switch. It's all your solenoids. So you go over here, lost it right there, pin 3E MCC control. That's the solenoid that I believe is having a problems. So what we're going to do is we're going to drive it, do a couple tests here off the highway, and watch the data and record it, and then go from there. Again, this transmission is the 62 TE for this Dodge Grand Caravan. So this pin 3, I forgot to tell you, but EMCC control, that's electronically modulated converter clutch. That's exactly what that acronym stands for, which is, like I said, this solenoid right here, which is pin 3, which we'll look at later on the connector pin out. But I believe that solenoid is getting plugged up mechanically. It doesn't need a whole new transmission like both local dealers in Mountain Home, Idaho are saying, and they want to charge them $4,400 to $4,500, and you already spent almost $300. I believe it needs a solenoid, so we're going to do some drivability tests and go from there. Alrighty, so I'm driving here. Been a few minutes. We got cruise on. You can see the RPMs. Everything looks good so far. We're in drive. You can see the data there. Target gear 6. Well, now just downshifting because we're going up a hill. So we're going up a hill, so downshifted. But you can look at all the parameter IDs, the PIDs there, what the computer wants and what it's actually doing. Again, sorry about all this glare from the sun and shaking. I'm trying to drive and film at the same time. But if you look there, we're in 6, target 6, and it's in 6 gear. If you look at all the turbine speed, output speed, RPMs, all that stuff, overdrive clutch applied, and all that stuff. So we'll continue to drive here at a steady state, and then we'll pull over and see what data we can capture so we can get it to act up. So you can see still driving, but if you look at the engine speed and the turbine speed, which is your turbine is your torque converter, they're about the same right now because we're in 6th gear. Torque converter clutch is applied, everything's locked up, 1-to-1 ratio or overdrive. Obviously we're all, overdrive because the output speed is a little bit higher. So, but if you notice, the engine speed and the turbine speed, like I said, is the same. So we're just going to keep it like this for a few more minutes, and then we're going to pull over and watch the data and see if it dies. Because normally, like I said, the customer complaint was coming off a highway, would pull over, it would surge really bad and then die. And I believe it's because of that solenoid mechanically not releasing. It's still engaging everything. Alrighty, so we're going to pull over here. I'm going to hit record data. So we're recording the live data there. I'm going to pull over up here, see if this thing acts up. We're in 6th gear. Turbine and engine speeds matches. So we're going to slow down here, watch the data, and see if we can reproduce the same conditions. And it's surging, it just died. So let me stop that data. And you can see it died. So now we're going to go ahead and do some more tests with this. Alrighty, I started back up, it's running again. So we got our data, engine speed, turbine speed is pretty close. Output speed 0, obviously, because we're not moving. Put it in drive. If I'm in drive, which is first gear, engine speed is, around 600. You can see it's surging pretty good there. Or I did a little bit. RPMs are surging. So anyways, the engine speed's 600 roughly, because that's what it wants for its target. The turbine speed 0. Obviously, because we're not moving. Give a little bit of gas, it moves. Along with the output speed. That started bucking there pretty good. Yeah, it's bucking there pretty good when I drive real slow off this road. Probably can't feel that, but obviously you can't feel it, you're watching the video. I think that pressure, that TCC solenoid is sticking. Because I'm at around 600, turbine speed is 0. Output speed 0 because I'm obviously stopped. But if I drive forward a little bit, I slow down, you can see the engine and turbine speed differences there. The torque converter slip. So now we're going to drive it again. We're going to throw it in neutral before we come to a stop and see if our anomalies go away. And then I'll go from there. Alright, now we're going to throw it in neutral here and see if the symptoms don't come back. Don't expect them to. So I'm going to go ahead and record my data again. So I'm on record. Drive in here. Keep recording my data. Get on a straightaway here so I can throw the vehicle in neutral and then slow down. We're in 6th gear. Desired and commanded, or target, actual. Our engine speed and our turbine speeds the same. Off to cruise, threw it in neutral, watch the scan tool data, slow down like I normally would. I'll watch the RPMs, and we're all good to go. We're in neutral. Nothing died. So that's just more evidence, but I believe it's that pressure switch or that TCC switch in the transmission. So what I'm going to do now is I think I'm going to disconnect that wire to the TCC switch and then do the same test, not in neutral but in drive, and see what results come from that to prove that it is the switch being mechanically stuck. Oh, and by the way, like I already said, there's no codes in the transmission engine control module. No fault codes at all. So now I want to show you on the instrument panel cluster when I slow down. what it does here. I haven't been driving it quite as long this time, but we'll see if it still does it. You can see the RPM surge and just the engine die off. See if it does the same thing when I pull over up here. Alright, I'm about to pull over up there in that side road there, gravel. Slow down here. Or pavement, whatever it is. Stop. And it just surged and died. So every time you come off the constant speed on the highway when the torque converter clutch is locked up. That's why I believe it's that solenoid. It doesn't need a whole entire transmission like both local dealers in Mountain Home, Idaho are saying. They're obviously troubleshooting it wrong. I'm going to spend $4,500 bucks. I already spent almost $300 when it just needs that solenoid. So now we're going to go and depin that wire for that solenoid and do some more tests and go from there. Alrighty, so if you look at that, it's hard to see in here, but there's the connector there. That's the transmission connector. And there's the pan right there where the connector goes. You can see the plug right there. That's the front of the pan. To get underneath the vehicle, it might be a little bit easier to see here. Yeah, that's the front pan's got to come off. That's where the solenoid's behind there. So, if you look at this harness here, pull it up. Pin 3, focus is there. Is this one where my thumb is? That's pin 3, which if you look here, pin 3 is TCC VFS control, which is that one. Come over to schematics. Remember, that's the solenoid. If you go to pin 3 on here, gotta find it now. Right there. Dark green is a tan tracer. That's what we're doing, or looking at. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna depin that and then take it for a test drive and see how those test results come out. After doing some more research on this, we're not gonna actually depin it because if we depin it, it'll put it in like a limp mode. It'll just make it stay in third gear. It'll be stuck in third gear. So it ain't gonna help us at all if we do that. So what needs to be done under that front cover there, that needs to come off, and it needs to get the that solenoid replaced, which I'll show you on the piece of paper again. So this is the solenoid there, torque converter clutch, variable force solenoid, which is pin 3, torque converter clutch variable force solenoid control, which is pin 3, which I showed you. And if you look on this diagram here again, one last time, I just got to find it. EMCC, which is electronically modulator control clutch. That's what's bad. So that side cover's got to come off, and that TCC's got to be done. It's not electronically bad because it's not throwing any trouble codes. It's mechanically bad. It's sticking in there. The fluid in there, the training fluid, is sticking inside that. After all the research and data we did, that's what needs to be done to this transmission. So it doesn't need an entire new transmission like the local dealer said. It just needs that TCC solenoid replaced. And that'll be it for this van. Alright, I know I said it was done, but I wanted to do one more check here. The data I got up now is the vehicle speed and the turbine speed. So what I'm going to look for is when if you remember from the earlier part of the video, you'd have to pay close attention to it, but we'll try to prove it here again on camera. The vehicle speed, when I stop, you go to 0, obviously it'll stay 0, and so should the turbine speed. But I noticed when I've been doing these tests that the turbine speed kind of lags behind, jumps up a little bit, and then it, you know, goes goes up and down, it surges. The turbine speed, which is your torque converter, and that's what keeps spinning when the engine is, or when the vehicle stopped. So again, when the vehicle stopped, so should the turbine speed. But I noticed that the vehicle stopped, vehicle speed 0 miles per hour. The turbine speed is still moving up and down, and that's what's killing the engine. So it's obviously still engaged, and that's exactly what's going on with this vehicle because of that solenoid for the TCC solenoid. So we're in 6th gear, torque converter locked up. We'll drive for a few minutes and then we'll try to capture this on video as well. So we're about to pull over here. We'll hit record. Try to capture this data. Slowing down. There. Seen it moving, it just died. It just died there. Sorry about all the bumps, but I had to get off the road. We'll try to look at some more data here in a minute and go from there. We're about to pull over here. Haven't been driving real long. We'll see if we can capture it on here. See the vehicle speed and the turbine speed. And again, the turbine is the torque converter. So when I pull over, when I stop, it should be 0 for the vehicle speed, and the turbine speed should be 0. But once in a while, it'll jump up. I'm just trying to capture it on film. So I'm going to slow down here. Stop. And it's surging. So in that last part of that, you could see the vehicle speed was 0, but we were surging up and down while we were at 0 miles per hour. It didn't die, but it almost did. But it was surging. It caught itself in time. So we're going to drive a little bit more and see if this thing will actually die to show the evidence for that. Alright, so I got the graph set up, merged them together. Blue is vehicle speed. Scale 0 or -10 to 90, just to show where the 0 mark is, and then green turbine speed -10 to 3,000. Can watch numbers and watch a graph. It'll be a little bit easier on our eyes to see what's going on here. I redid the graphs. I made the bottom line 0, and then I get over here. So I made the blue one vehicle speed 0 to 100, and the green one turbine speed 0 to 3,000. That way it's easier on our eyes. I just downshifted there to get up this hill. So we'll pull over here a little bit once we get into our 6th gear TCC lockup. Again, vehicle speed blue 0 to 100, turbine speed green 0 to 3,000. All right, we're going to go ahead and pull over here. Watch that data. Alright, it surged back there, didn't die yet. We're going to try one more time here. And then try to capture it on video before my scan tool dies. Pull over real quick. So you can see it surged there a little bit. Turbine speed still spinning once we approach 0 miles per hour. Alrighty, so all of that video evidence earlier in this video proves that the TCC solenoid is bad. It's not electronically bad, it's mechanically bad. It's not controlling the transmission fluid level correctly to the turbine, which is the torque converter, turbine, whatever you want to call it. So to replace that, you would just, you know, pop off that cover, replace the solenoid. Since you're in there, you might as well pop off the bottom pan, place the fluid and filter. You know, the solenoid is anywhere from $60 to $100, plus the filter and some fluid and gasket. A couple hours. I wouldn't think it'd be more than $200-300 into it. It's a lot better than, you know, $4,400-4,500. You're going to spend or save over $4,000 by doing this. You already spent almost $300 on this, and they didn't troubleshoot it. They just said it needs a new transmission, which it does not. It just needs that TCC solenoid. But earlier parts of the video, if you watch there, while we're driving, when we pulled over, the one part of the video, you know, the vehicle speed was 0, and the turbine speed, a few seconds later, it went to 53 and like 93 or 94. That's what killed the engine, obviously, because the turbine should not be spinning at all, right? The torque converter should not be spinning at all, and it was. In the other parts of the video, the analog data and the graphing data, it shows in there. You look very closely. We're pulling up to stop. It would be 0, but the turbine would still go up and down in speed, and that's when it was surging. Well, sometimes it would surge so bad it would kill it, and obviously we captured it dying in the video, and we actually captured it, you know, surging in the video because the turbine still spinning. Because the TCC is not controlling the flow correctly. Or the EMCC is what Dodge calls it, electronically modulator controlled clutch, which needs to be replaced. That solenoid. Again, the local dealerships in Mountain Home, Idaho, are just trying to, you know, I don't know, gouge customers for their for these jobs. It doesn't need all that work done. It just simply needs to pop that front cover off, which is easy to get to, replace that solenoid, and put everything back together, and it'll be good to go. It does not need a whole transmission like the local dealers in Mountain Home, Idaho says it does. They continue to throw parts at it. They don't troubleshoot anything. Obviously, they didn't troubleshoot this. I know they didn't do all this data. There's no way. It takes time. They're just replacing the whole transmission. Well, that's, I mean, obviously that would fix it, the whole issue, but that's what's not wrong. It's just that solenoid within the transmission. So that is a wrap for this video.